The observation deck hummed with nervous energy as Admiral Krelthar positioned his 4 eyes toward the transparent barrier. Beyond it, the human prison transport vessel floated like a wounded beast, its hull scarred from what the reports called an unfortunate altercation. Unfortunate, Krelthar muttered, his mandibles clicking with irritation. They destroyed 3 security mechs, with nothing but their appendages. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Voss, adjusted her sensory stalks with visible unease. "Sir, perhaps we should reconsider the transfer protocol. The human female, she is unpredictable." "Unpredictable?" Krelthar's laugh came out as a series of sharp barks. "She punched through reinforced titanium plating, Voss. That goes slightly beyond unpredictable and lands firmly in the territory of terrifying." The file on his display pad flickered with orange warning symbols. Subject designation: Maya Reeves, former Earth military. Dishonorably discharged for reasons that remained conveniently redacted. Arrested on Station Epsilon 9 for what the humans called excessive force during a bar fight. The bar no longer existed. Neither did most of the aggressors. The Galactic Council wants her transferred to Maximum Containment Facility 17, Voss said, her voice trembling through her translator. They believe standard protocols will suffice. Krelthar turned all 4 eyes on his lieutenant. Standard protocols? Voss, did you actually read the incident reports? I attempted to, sir. Attempted? I became physically ill after the 3rd page. That tracked. Krelthar had made it to page 7 before his breakfast threatened rebellion. The descriptions were graphic, detailed, and profoundly disturbing. Humans, it turned out, had an extensive knowledge of where to hit other species to cause maximum damage. Maya Reeves had demonstrated this knowledge with what the witnesses described as artistic precision. The docking clamps engaged with a place, heavy thunk that reverberated through the deck plating. Krelthar watched as the transfer tube extended like a cautious tentacle, connecting their station to the prison transport. Somewhere inside that tube, encased in what everyone hoped was sufficient restraint technology, was a creature that had made career soldiers question their life choices. "Security teams in position?" Krelthar asked, though he suspected it wouldn't matter. "Yes, sir. 12 armed guards, all equipped with neural disruptors and plasma rifles. The restraint field generators are operating at maximum capacity." "Excellent. That might buy us 3, maybe 4 seconds. Voss's stalks drooped. "You really believe she is that dangerous?" "Voss, 3 weeks ago, a Krelian warrior caste challenged her to single combat. Do you know what happened?" The reports were unclear. "Because the witnesses were too traumatized to provide coherent statements." Krelthar's voice rose sharply. "She broke his exoskeleton in 4 places, and Krelians have exoskeletons specifically evolved to withstand industrial-grade crushing equipment." The airlock door began its sequence, lights blinking from red to amber. Krelthar felt his respiratory slits tighten with anticipation. Throughout his 30 years of service, he had encountered dangerous beings, Vortian assassins with their poisonous spines, Draxian berserkers hopped up on combat stimulants. Once, memorably, a Quilmarian diplomat who turned out to be 3 smaller Quilmarians in a suit with severe anger management issues. None of them had made him feel like this peculiar combination of professional dread and morbid curiosity. The amber light turned green. The door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. She looked ordinary. That was the first shock. Standing roughly 1.7 meters tall, bipedal, with only 2 eyes positioned on the front of her head, like some kind of predatory simplicity. Her skin was several shades darker than the photograph suggested, rich brown that seemed to absorb the harsh station lighting. Hair pulled back in what humans called a ponytail, which seemed like an absurd name for a hairstyle, honestly. But it was her eyes that caught Krelthar's attention. Dark, calculating, taking in every detail of the receiving bay with the kind of tactical assessment that made his thermal regulators spike. She wasn't just looking around. She was mapping exits, counting guards, calculating angles and distances. The restraints around her wrists glowed with active suppression fields, heavy-duty models, designed to contain beings 3 times her mass. They hummed with enough energy to power a small settlement. She wore them like jewelry. "Welcome to Transfer Station 94, Krelthar began, forcing his voice into something resembling professional courtesy. "I am Admiral Krelthar, Station Commander. You will be temporarily housed here before your transfer to—" He stopped mid-sentence, because Maya Reeves had smiled. Not a friendly smile, not even a threatening smile, really. It was the smile of someone who had just heard a particularly amusing joke that nobody else was in on yet. "Something funny, human?" he managed to ask. "Transfer Station 94, she said, her voice surprisingly calm, almost melodic. "You guys really need better naming conventions. It sounds like a tax form." Voss made a strangled sound that her translator wisely refused to process. "Your opinions on our naming conventions are noted and ignored," Krelthar replied, recovering some composure. "You will be escorted to holding cell 7-B. Any attempt to resist will be met with appropriate force." Maya's smile widened fractionally. "Appropriate force. I like that. It's delightfully vague." She glanced at the security team, 12 nervous guards with weapons that could vaporize a charging Relian bullbeast. "Tell me, Admiral, what's the appropriate amount of force for someone like me?" That was the question, wasn't it? The files suggested that conventional weapons had limited effectiveness. During her arrest, she had taken 3 neural disruptor hits and kept moving. The 4th one had finally dropped her, but only because she had decided cooperation was the tactically sound choice at that particular moment. "Enough to ensure compliance," Krelthar said, which sounded authoritative right up until the words left his mandibles and he realized how weak it actually was. Maya took a step forward. Every guard in the bay raised their weapons simultaneously. She stopped, raising her restrained hands in a gesture of peace that somehow managed to convey the exact opposite. "Easy, fellas. Just stretching my legs. Your transport had terrible lumbar support." "Remain stationary," Voss ordered, her voice cracking through the translator. "Any further movement will be considered hostile action." "Any further movement?" Maya tilted her head, an expression that on humans suggested either confusion or impending violence. Often both. "So if I, hypothetically, needed to scratch my nose, that's a hostile action?" Krelthar felt a headache forming behind his primary eyes. Humans and their constant need to test boundaries. "Context matters, Reeves. Scratching your nose is acceptable. Punching through the hull is not. Good to know where the line is." She looked around the bay again, that calculating gaze sweeping across structural supports, power conduits, ventilation systems. "Nice place you've got here. Bet it cost a fortune to build. All these fancy force fields and weapons. Makes you wonder, though." "Wonder what?" Krelthar asked, immediately regretting the question. "Why you need all this for one unarmed human?" Her smile never wavered. "I mean, I'm flattered, really, but it does seem like overkill. Or, exactly enough kill if your intelligence reports are accurate." Voss leaned closer to Krelthar, her voice a whisper that her inquote translator barely picked up. "Sir, I really think we should move her to the holding cell now. This conversation is becoming unsettling." She wasn't wrong. There was something profoundly disturbing about the casual way Maya discussed her own lethality. Like it was weather. Like violence was just another form of small talk. "Security Team Delta, escort the prisoner to holding cell 7-B, Krelthar commanded, trying to inject authority back into the situation. "Maintain maximum alert. Do not engage in conversation. Do not deviate from the designated route. And for the love of the great cosmos, do not let her convince you to deactivate the restraints." "Would I do that?" Maya asked innocently. "According to your file, you have done exactly that on 4 separate occasions." "Fair point." She shrugged, which made her restraints flare brighter. "In my defense, 3 of those guards were really bad at their jobs. The 4th one, I felt bad about. He seemed nice. Hope his therapy is going well." The security team moved into formation around her, weapons trained but hands visibly shaking. Krelthar didn't blame them. He had decades of combat experience, advanced tactical training, and a personal shield generator rated for small explosions. He still wouldn't want to be that close to Maya Reeves. They began the slow march toward the detention sector, boots clicking against metal decking in an uneven rhythm. Krelthar watched from the observation deck, tracking their progress through the station's extensive camera network. Everything seemed normal. The guards maintained proper spacing. Maya walked cooperatively in the center of the formation. No sudden movements, no witty commentary. That's when Krelthar's instincts, honed by years of near-death experiences, started screaming. "Voss, pull up the detention sector schematic." "Sir?" "Now, Lieutenant." The display flickered to life, showing the route from the docking bay to holding cell 7-B. Krelthar traced the path with one claw, his mind racing. Standard corridor, 3 security checkpoints, 2 redundant blast doors, and there. Oh no. "Sir? What is it?" Section 12. The corridor passes directly beneath the station's primary drone maintenance bay. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "Voss? When was the last maintenance cycle?" Voss consulted her pad, her stalks going rigid. 2 hours ago, sir. They would have just finished the diagnostic runs on the new Mark 7 combat drones. And those drones are still powered up for final testing? Yes, but sir, the floor plating is reinforced durasteel. There's no way. Even a human couldn't. Krelthar was already running toward the internal transport system. "You clearly haven't been paying attention, Voss. Get me a direct line to the security team, now!" He burst into the transport pod, slamming his claw against the emergency override. The pod shot forward, compensators struggling to keep up with the acceleration. His communication implant crackled to life. "Take the alternate path through Section 9. Static answered him. Then, after a delay that felt like centuries, "Sir, Section 9 adds 12 minutes to the transfer time. Our orders are to use the most direct route. Listen to me very carefully," Krelthar said, forcing calm into his voice while his heart hammered against his ribs. "The most direct route takes you under the drone bay. Do you understand what that means?" More static. Then, horrifyingly, "Sir, the prisoner is asking what drones we're talking about." "Do not engage with the prisoner. Do not answer questions. Just change your route immediately. She says she's just curious about our defensive systems. She seems genuinely interested in the technology." Krelthar felt his thermal regulators completely give up. Team Delta, that human is not curious about technology. She is planning something. Change your route now, or I will have you all reassigned to waste reclamation. The pod screamed through the transport tubes, lights blurring into solid lines. Krelthar pulled up the security feed on his wrist display, watching the team's progress. They were still moving along the original route, approaching Section 12. Maya walked peacefully in the center, hands raised, the picture of cooperation, but her eyes. Even through the grainy security footage, Krelthar could see her eyes. She was looking up at the ceiling, at the exact section where the floor of the maintenance bay would be, calculating, measuring. "Sir, the prisoner has stopped walking," the team leader reported, sounding more annoyed than concerned. "She says her restraints are too tight and need adjustment." "They do not need adjustment. Keep moving." "She's insisting, sir." She says it's causing circulation problems. Humans can lose appendages if blood flow is restricted. That's not going to happen in the 30 seconds it would take to reach the holding cell. Move! But it was too late. Krelthar saw it happening even before the security team realized what was occurring. Maya dropped to one knee, a movement so sudden that the guards instinctively stepped back. Her restrained hands came up, then down, striking the deck plating with what should have been an ineffectual thud. The entire section shuddered. "What was that?" someone shouted over the comm. Maya stood up slowly, smiled, and punched the floor again. This time, the durasteel buckled. Cracks spider-webbed out from the impact point, which was impossible. Absolutely impossible because durasteel was rated for. Oh no. The third punch went through. Alarms screamed to life throughout the station. Krelthar watched in paralyzed horror as Maya's arm disappeared into the hole she had created, reaching up into the maintenance bay above, or below, or geometry was becoming flexible under the circumstances. "She's reaching for something!" the team leader yelled, finally catching on that this was not a standard situation. "Open fire!" Neural disruptor bolts lit up the corridor, turning the security feed into a strobing nightmare. But Maya had already pulled something through the hole, something large and metallic that unfolded with mechanical precision. A Mark 7 combat drone, 3 meters tall, equipped with plasma cannons and molecular disruption fields, designed to operate in zero-G combat situations and capable of taking down an assault shuttle. She had ripped it through a reinforced floor using nothing but the enhanced strength that humans apparently possessed, and nobody had properly warned him about. The drone's optical sensors flickered to life, glowing an ominous red. Maya stood next to it, her restraint sparking and failing as she flexed her wrists. She looked directly at the security camera, and even across the distance and through the digital feed, Krelthar felt the weight of that gaze. "Sorry about this," she said, her voice perfectly clear over the chaos. "But I really hate holding cells." Then she punched the drone in what could optimistically be called its face. The drone's head, constructed from military-grade alloys, designed to withstand direct hits from anti-material weapons, crumpled like waste paper. Sparks erupted from its optical array. Its combat arms, each weighing more than Maya's entire body, went limp as its central processor turned into very expensive confetti. The entire incident, from the moment she touched the drone to the moment it collapsed into a sparking heap, took approximately 2 seconds. The security feed showed 12 guards, all standing perfectly still, weapons lowered, staring at the scene before them, with what Krelthar recognized as the universal expression of beings who had just watched their reality fundamentally reorganize itself. Maya stepped over the destroyed drone's chassis, brushing metal, fragments from her prison jumpsuit. "So," she said conversationally, "about that holding cell. I'm thinking maybe we renegotiate that part of the arrangement?" Krelthar's transport pod screeched to a halt at Section 12. He emerged to find his security team still frozen, Maya standing calm and composed in the center of the corridor, and the remains of a 3 million credit combat drone scattered across the deck like a child's broken toy. "Reeves," he managed to say, his voice box struggling to form words. "That drone cost more than some planets' annual defense budgets." She looked at the wreckage, then back at him. "Then maybe you guys should invest in cheaper drones. Or, reconsider your policy of keeping people in cages." She paused, tilting her head again. "Just a thought." Voss arrived moments later, taking in the scene with her sensory stalks fully extended in shock. "Sir, what? How did she?" "The reports were understated," Krelthar said numbly. "Significantly understated." Maya brushed a bit of drone plating off her shoulder. "Look, I get it. You have protocols, procedures, all that good bureaucratic stuff. But here's the thing, Admiral. I didn't actually break any galactic laws. The bar fight on Epsilon 9? Self-defense. Those guys started it. I just finished it, along with several of their skeletal structures. You destroyed an entire establishment. They had really flimsy furniture. She kicked at a piece of the drone, sending it skittering across the deck. Point is, you're holding me on questionable charges while the real criminals walk free. That's not justice. That's politics. Krelthar opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, then opened it again. You just destroyed military property worth more than most starships. Self-defense, Maya repeated calmly. That drone activated in my presence. I felt threatened. I responded with appropriate force. Her smile returned, sharp and dangerous. Remember? Appropriate. Force. Your words, Admiral. Somewhere in the distance, more alarms began wailing. Secondary systems, detecting the hull breach, the destroyed drone, the complete failure of security protocols. Krelthar felt his career evaporating in real time, atomized like the drone's processor core. What do you want, Reeves? He asked, too tired suddenly to maintain the pretense of control. A ship. Small, fast, capable of making the run to neutral territory, my personal effects, which I believe are in your evidence locker, and maybe a sandwich. Your prison transport had terrible food. And, if I refuse? Maya looked around the corridor, at the guards, still frozen in place, at the destroyed drone, at the structural damage that would take weeks to repair. Then, she looked back at Krelthar with an expression of polite inquiry. Then I guess we see how many more drones I can break before you run out of them, or I run out of patience. She cracked her knuckles, a sound like small arms fire in the plane. Tense silence. Fair warning, though, I have a lot of patience. You probably don't have that many drones. Krelthar had survived 3 major fleet engagements, a political coup attempt, and that one time his ship's life support system failed during a diplomatic mission to an ice moon. None of those experiences had prepared him for negotiating with a human who had just demonstrated the structural integrity of their knuckles versus military hardware. You understand, he said slowly, that what you are proposing is essentially hijacking a galactic council station? Maya leaned against the corridor wall, somehow making the posture look both casual and vaguely threatening. Hijacking implies violence and coercion. I prefer to think of it as aggressive negotiation. You destroyed a combat drone with your bare hands. The drone was definitely bare, Maya agreed. My hands less so. I've got calluses. She held up her hands, wiggling her fingers. Layers of protective tissue. It's fascinating biology, really. Humans are basically self-armoring. Lieutenant Voss made a sound like a deflating balloon. Sir, perhaps we should hear her demands. Sorry, her negotiation terms. Smart officer, Maya said approvingly. You should promote her. Krelthar felt another headache blooming. Fine, let us discuss your terms. But we do it in Conference Room 9, not standing in a corridor surrounded by the remains of expensive equipment. Conference Room 9? Does everything on this station have a number? Yes. That must make poetry very difficult. We do not write poetry on military installations. Maya pushed off from the wall, her movements fluid despite having just committed what amounted to mechanical homicide. No poetry? That explains so much about Galactic Council morale. Lead the way, Admiral. The walk to Conference Room 9 was possibly the longest of Krelthar's life. Every crew member they passed stopped and stared, drawn by the sight of their commander, escorting an unrestrained human prisoner who had apparently decided restraints were more of a suggestion than a requirement. Maya waved at a few of them. One young technician fainted. Conference Room 9 was mercifully empty. Krelthar gestured to a chair that had been designed for species with more conventional anatomy. Maya studied it for a moment, then sat down, cross-legged on the table instead. Much better. Chairs are overrated. She looked around the sparse room, taking in the bland gray walls and standard-issue display screens. You know, For an advanced spacefaring civilization, you guys really skimp on interior design. We prioritize function over aesthetics, Voss said defensively. And how's that working out for general mental health? Maya asked. Because from what I've seen, most of your crew looks about 3 stress units away from a complete breakdown. Krelthar settled into his own chair, which groaned under his weight. Perhaps we should focus on the situation at hand. Right. Business first. Maya clasped her hands together. Here's the deal. You let me go, provide a ship as requested, return my belongings, and in exchange, I don't tell everyone in 3 sectors that Transfer Station 94 can't handle 1 human with anger management issues. That sounds like blackmail. I prefer reputation management. Consulting. Maya's expression turned serious, the playfulness draining away. Look, Admiral, I'm not a bad person. I know what you've read in those files makes me sound like some kind of monster. But everything I did, every fight, every broken bone, it was defensive. I don't start trouble. You certainly finish it, though, Voss muttered. That's kind of the point, isn't it? Maya spread her hands. The galaxy is full of bullies, species that think humans are weak because we don't have natural armor or venomous stingers or acid glands. They push, they threaten, they think we'll back. Down. Krelthar's mandibles twitched. And you prove them wrong. Violently. Maya didn't look away. See, here's what nobody seems to understand about humans. We're not naturally aggressive. We actually prefer cooperation, community, working together. But millions of years of evolution gave us something special. We gave ourselves the tools to fight back against everything that wanted to eat us, kill us, or take what was ours. And then, we kept those tools even after we didn't need them anymore. Tools? Voss asked. Maya tapped her head. Intelligence, pattern recognition, the ability to see a weakness and exploit it instantly. She held up her hands again. And yeah, these. Do you know what makes human hands special, Lieutenant? Opposable thumbs, yes, but also incredible grip strength and the ability to form a proper fist. We can punch things. Effectively, it's weirdly unique in the galactic community. Krelthar pulled up his datapad, scrolling through xenobiology files he suddenly wished he had read more carefully. Most species evolved away from physical combat. Because you had other defenses, shells, poisons, size, speed. Humans had none of that. So, we got creative. We learned to throw rocks really accurately. We figured out persistence hunting, just chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We developed social structures that let us take down threats 10 times our size through cooperation. Maya's voice carried a strange mixture of pride and melancholy. We're endurance predators who learned to use tools and never forgot how to be dangerous even without them. The conference room fell silent except for the hum of environmental systems. Krelthar studied the human before him, seeing her with new eyes. Not a monster, not a threat. Just a being shaped by a hostile world who had carried those survival instincts into the stars. Your species frightens us, he admitted quietly. I know. Maya's smile returned, but it was gentler now. We frighten ourselves sometimes. That's why most humans stay on Earth, or the colony worlds. We're trying to be better, less violent, more civilized. But civilization is a thin layer over some very old instincts. So, what happened on Epsilon 9? Voss asked. The truth, not the official report. Maya sighed, running a hand through her hair. I was having a drink, minding my own business. 3 Vorlak traders decided that humans were good targets for entertainment, started making threats, getting physical. I asked them to stop. One of them grabbed me, and, well, instinct kicked in. You hospitalized all 3, and I feel terrible about it. Maya looked genuinely remorseful. But in that moment, when someone grabs you with intent to harm, Your brain doesn't care about diplomacy. It cares about survival. My survival instinct just happens to be very, very good at its job. Krelthar set down his datapad. The bar? Structural damage was accidental. Vorlak are big. When they fall hard. Took out some support columns on the way down. She grimaced. I offered to pay for repairs, but the station authorities decided to make an example instead. Human violence is apparently worse than alien harassment. The Admiral felt something shift in his understanding. Not sympathy exactly, but comprehension. The Galactic Council has been looking for a reason to restrict human expansion. And I handed them one on a silver platter. Maya agreed. One angry human, proving every stereotype about our species. I'm not proud of it. Voss's sensory stalks drooped thoughtfully. Sir, if what she says is true, the charges might not hold up under proper review. They won't, Krelthar said, coming to a decision that would probably end his career but felt right anyway. Which is why you are going to escape, Reeves. Maya blinked. I'm sorry, what? You heard me. You will overpower the guards, unfortunately injure no one, because you are showing remarkable restraint. Commandeer a ship from our docking bay and flee to neutral space before we can stop you. He met her gaze steadily. We will, of course, do everything in our power to prevent this, but humans are surprisingly resourceful. Admiral? You can't. Voss stammered. I can, and I am. Krelthar stood, his joints creaking. Reeves, you have 20 minutes to reach Docking Bay 3. There is a courier ship, the Rapid Transit Designation 711, fueled and ready for departure. Your personal effects are in Evidence Locker 18, which just happens to be between here and the docking bay. The access code is 8429. Maya stared at him, genuine surprise crossing her features. Why are you doing this? Because you are right. The charges are political. Justice should not be politics. He gestured toward the door. And because I have read enough reports to know that if you actually wanted to escape, my entire station could not stop you. This way, we maintain the illusion of control, you get your freedom, and nobody else gets hurt. The drone might disagree about the nobody getting hurt part, Maya said, but she was already moving toward the door. The drone did not have feelings. Probably. Our technicians debate this. Krelthar activated his communication implant. All security teams, be advised. The prisoner is escaping. She is extremely dangerous. Do not, and I cannot stress this enough, actually try to stop her. Minimal resistance only. We cannot afford to lose more personnel or equipment. Maya paused at the doorway. Thank you, Admiral. Seriously, I won't forget this. Just do me a favor, Reeves. Try to control that instinct of yours. The galaxy needs humans, but it needs humans who can walk away from fights they don't have to finish. I'll work on it. She grinned. No promises, though. Old habits, and all that. Then she was gone, moving with surprising speed for someone who had been in restraints minutes ago. Krelthar watched her disappear down the corridor, then turned to his stunned lieutenant. Voss, prepare an incident report. The prisoner escaped due to unforeseen complications with the restraint systems. We attempted to stop her, but were unsuccessful due to human physiological advantages we had not adequately prepared for. Sir, they will know we let her go. Perhaps, but they will not be able to prove it. He managed a tired smile. And frankly, I would rather face a council inquiry than explain to my superiors how one human destroyed our entire security infrastructure. The next 18 minutes were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Maya moved through the station like a force of nature, encountering security teams who put up what could charitably be called resistance. Plasma rifles fired carefully above her head. Neural disruptors malfunctioned at convenient moments. Blast doors experienced sudden technical difficulties that delayed their closing just long enough for her to slip through. Evidence Locker 18 surrendered its contents without complaint. Maya retrieved a battered jacket, a datapad with Earth music, and a small photo of people Krelthar assumed were family. She looked at the photo for a long moment, something vulnerable crossing her face, before tucking it carefully into her jacket pocket. Docking Bay 3 was chaos as well, but organized chaos. Technicians scrambled to look busy, while staying well clear of the human moving purposefully toward the Rapid Transit 711. The ship itself was a sleek courier vessel, fast and maneuverable, perfect for someone who needed to cross a lot of space quickly. Maya climbed into the cockpit, running through pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency. Former military, Krelthar remembered, she knew her way around spacecraft. "Admiral," her voice crackled over the station's communication system. "If anyone asks, you put up a great fight. Very impressive. I barely escaped." "Noted," Krelthar replied from his command center, watching through the bay cameras. "Reeves, one more thing." "Yeah? Where will you go?" There was a pause, filled with the sound of engine systems warming up. "There's a human colony on the edge of the frontier reaches. New place, still building itself up. They need people who can handle themselves, and I'm told the local wildlife is extremely hostile. Figured I'd put these instincts to use protecting people instead of just protecting myself." "That sounds like a better application of your talents." "That's the hope." The ship's engines flared to life, blue-white exhaust washing across the docking bay. "Maybe I can be the kind of dangerous that keeps people safe instead of the kind that gets them hurt." "I believe you can," Krelthar said, and meant it. The Rapid Transit 711 lifted smoothly from its docking cradle, maneuvering toward the bay exit with practiced ease. The station's weapon systems tracked it, targeting solutions, calculated and ignored. As the ship approached the threshold, Maya's voice came through one last time. "Hey, Admiral? That poetry thing? You should really reconsider. It's good for morale. Trust me on this." Then she was gone, accelerating into the black with enough force that the inertial compensators probably complained. Krelthar watched until the ship disappeared from sensor range, swallowed by the vastness of space and the infinite possibilities it contained. Voss appeared at his side, her stalks drooping with exhaustion. "Sir, what do we tell the Council?" "The truth, more or less. We underestimated human capabilities. We will file a formal request for updated xenobiology briefings on Terran species. We will recommend that future encounters with humans involve less aggression and more dialogue." He turned away from the viewport. "And we will hope that Maya Reeves finds what she is looking for on that colony world." "Do you think she will stay out of trouble?" Krelthar considered the question carefully. "No, but I think she will find better trouble. The kind that matters. The kind that helps people." 3 weeks later, reports began filtering in from the frontier reaches. A human had arrived at colony designation Shepherd's Rest, offering her services as a security consultant. Within days, she had organized the colonists' defenses against the local predator population. Within weeks, the attacks had stopped entirely. The predators, apparently, had learned that the hairless bipeds were much more dangerous than they appeared. The colony thrived. Maya Reeves became something of a local legend, the human who punched a razor wing out of the sky when it threatened a child. The human who stared down a pack of void stalkers and convinced them to hunt elsewhere through body language alone. The human who taught the colonists that civilization did not mean weakness, just directed strength. In his office on Transfer Station 94, Admiral Krelthar read these reports with quiet satisfaction. The Council had reprimanded him officially and commended him privately. The destroyed drone had been written off as a training expense. His career would survive, probably even prosper, in the strange way that scandals sometimes enhanced reputations. Voss entered without knocking, a habit she had developed since the incident. "Sir, you have a message. Personal encryption. Human origin." Krelthar accepted the data chip, sliding it into his terminal. The message was brief, text only, but it made him laugh in that barking way that startled his crew. "Admiral, colony is safe. Kids are learning to throw rocks accurately. Civilized barbarians make the best neighbors. Also started a poetry club. You were right about morale. Thanks for the second chance. Don't punch any more drones. M.R." He saved the message, filed it under personal correspondence, and returned to his regular duties. Outside the viewport, space stretched endlessly, full of species, learning to coexist, learning to understand each other, learning that strength came in many forms. And somewhere on the frontier, a human taught children to throw rocks while writing poetry about the stars, proving that the most dangerous beings in the galaxy could also be the gentlest when given the choice. The galaxy, Krelthar reflected, was becoming a more interesting place. Complicated, certainly. Sometimes violent, but interesting. And really, what more could you ask for?